This is an important video, guys. I have some very important news and analysis to discuss what I think will happen next, as I think a lot of people right here will get trapped. And without further ado, let's look first at the Bitcoin on the weekly chart, looking at the 200 simple daily moving average, okay? And this is really important. So right now, this is the price, of course, over the last 200 trading days, this orange line, and we can see that we are exactly at resistance right here. I've mentioned this a few times before, but this is most likely, according to history, the point where we get rejected and go into a bear market. And we see this last time it happened, of course, 2 times in a bear market where we got rejected exactly at this point. It happened also the bear market before that, where we got rejected a couple of times before going down. But this is, of course, on a weekly time scale. I like to zoom in a bit and see what will happen potentially over the next couple of days or 1 or 2 weeks, right? This is just on a larger time frame. So, of course, on a larger time frame, you guys know that I'm bearish and I think we're gonna go down. And to really reiterate my point here, on a larger time frame, we can see here the monthly returns for Bitcoin every single month. And we never had more than 2 consecutive green candles in a bull market. And looking here, of course, right now, it looks like May is gonna be positive, but May has just started and we're just 4% up. We were up to 11% just a few days ago. Most likely we will turn negative here. So going back 4 years into the last bear cycle, this is 2022. The last bear market was 2022, of course, here this year. And we can see that we just had 2 consecutive green months. This was February and March. April was very negative. 4 years before that, we only ever had 1 green candle in a row. We'd never had 2 green candles in a row. And then before that, even 2014, also we maximum had 2 green months in a row. So this is just again to highlight that I think we're going down. But now let's go into Bitcoin here. And this is the important part on the daily time frame. I mentioned that we have this, of course, ascending wedge, which we know, and I mentioned it, is a bearish pattern. It usually goes to the upside and then eventually breaks to the downside. And yes, it looks like we're breaking down right now. And the target is, yes, the bottom at $65,000. However, let's look at this chart. And I think we're gonna go up a bit more before we go down. And this is not a confirmed breakout yet. Whenever we look at this, I personally like to see a confirmation. The day has not even ended yet. And I like to see a confirmation on the weekly time frame. So I wanna see us on the weekly also breaking down the same pattern. Because on the daily we might go down, but then tomorrow we might go up again. So it's not as strong yet. And look at this chart. This is also on the daily, but in a slightly different way. Of course, the ascending wedge is here. We have the ascending wedge, but right now look at the support line. This line, the red line, has previously acted as resistance, and now is acting as support. And we have not confirmed a breakdown below yet. Yes, we wicked down the candle, but we have not confirmed that the candle is closed below this line. And as long as this is the case, I am still bullish on the shorter time frame. On top of that, the CME gap, and this is super important, has not yet been filled. And these fill like 90% of the time or something like that. So the really high percentage of the time they get filled, and there's not filled yet. It's all the way here at $84,100 approximately. Just for you guys to know how we calculate these, we basically take we go on ideally on the 4-hourly chart, and then we go on Friday. You can see on the bottom here, this is the Friday candle. We go on the closing price on Friday, and then we go on the opening price on Monday. So that's why I went here to the bottom. So that's exactly the difference in price that we have over the weekend, of course. And we can see that we are not there yet. And I still think we will go there. If we do not fill it and we go down, I would be extremely worried. And I would be very cautious, because these usually get filled, as I mentioned, like 90% of the time. And therefore, we are still right now in a kind of bullish trend. We're still not below the support line. And we still have not filled the CME gap. And on top of that, we have built up more liquidity. If you saw my video yesterday and the day before, you would have seen that this line had not as much liquidity here above us. We are building up more liquidity now above us, as of course people start shorting now. And the yellower it is, the more dark yellow it is, the more liquidity is clustered around this region. And this region we can see is around about $83,000, and also some all the way to $84,000 to $85,000. So pretty much exactly, if we hit that liquidity, we're also going to be filling that CME gap and potentially going back into our ascending wedge. And I hope I'm right on this. This is my honest prediction to you guys. No messing around. That's what I think will happen. And then we're going to grab the liquidity here on the downside, which is like all the way to $76,000. And then we will eventually build up more liquidity on the downside as people start longing the market. And as we go down, of course, we're again going to build liquidity on the upside. And that's exactly how Bitcoin moves up and down in a certain direction. And we are in a downtrend right now, but does not mean that we go down immediately. Of course not. We go down, sweep the liquidity on the upside, go down more, sweep the liquidity on the bottom. And in this way, we move on Bitcoin. And that is essentially my analysis. And let's look at a few important market news. So today we had, of course, the PPI data come out, and the PPI came out at 6% compared to expected only 4.9%. So it's massively up compared to what is expected to be. And we know that PPI is a leading indicator, meaning production costs, if they are higher, eventually they will lead to higher products, which will then cause the CPI to go up, the consumer price index. So if this PPI is high, this can tell us that potentially next month the CPI will also increase, because these higher production costs will then be reflected in the supermarket shelves and in regular goods that people buy. And the core CPI is just taking out energy and oil prices, and therefore takes out these external factors which might affect it. So it's also interesting to look at. And of course, also it came out higher than expected. And here looking at this, and here basically this jump is marking the biggest monthly jump in inflation since March 2022. All of these data is very clear, and it suggests that consumers are about to face another wave of serious pressure on spending power, of course, meaning inflation is going up. And we can see what was the effect. Well, the stock market dumped tremendously. And also, of course, Bitcoin dumped on this news, right? I think that is the reason why Bitcoin primarily dumped here, because we had bad inflation readings. And the next thing to talk about is some good news, which is why I think we have a trap here whereby we will go up potentially very soon. Trump is actually in China now. He's visiting the president of China with a few very top executives from top US companies. Elon Musk will be there, Tim Cook will be there, Larry Fink will be there. And essentially the goal is to develop new connections with China and potentially remove some tariffs. And this will eventually be good for the markets. And we can see one investor, a Trump insider, has just opened a $22 million Bitcoin long position ahead of the Trump and Xi Jinping meeting. And this insider has predicted every market dump and pump so far. Does he know something? Well, I think of course he knows something. If you're an insider, you know something. And right now this dump for Bitcoin is most likely, in my opinion, a trap. And given the news, this is just, in my opinion, a short-term dump because of the interest rates the inflation being high. And we know that this meeting, if it turns out well, will pump Bitcoin in the short run potentially to $84,000. So therefore, do not be trapped here. We stick to our strategy as always, of course. And on top of that, now Kevin Warsh has been confirmed by the US Senate to replace Jerome Powell. Now it's official. He is a pro-crypto Federal Reserve chair, and he will be taking over the Fed. This is, of course, also good for us long-term for crypto, but doesn't mean that we're not going down now in the next couple of months as we're in a bear market. You guys know my target is approximately October of this year for the bottom of the bear market, potentially around about $50,000 to... I can't tell you guys the number, to be honest. It's, I think, between 48 to 55, somewhere in that region. It doesn't really matter what's the exact price. What matters is that you buy somewhere around the bottom. Also, stocks are of course up. Nvidia has surpassed silver now. It's the second largest asset class in the world, worth $5.52 trillion. That's insane. Of course, it's because of all the AI boom, the semiconductor boom. And I expect this AI to just, the AI boom to continue, because AI is used every single day. I used AI to create my YouTube thumbnails, for example. You might have noticed that. It is amazing. You should be using it as well, in my opinion. And Google is now only 4% away from becoming the second company in history to hit a $5 trillion market cap. So we have a lot growth here. And of course, the S&P 500 is mostly being driven by these companies through the AI boom. While we have many indicators suggesting there will be a correction in the S&P 500, I think it can continue going a bit higher as we have, of course, the AI boom continuing to the upside. And also here we can see Nvidia is now worth more than India. It's just interesting to note, as these major US companies are very strong, and going to the meeting with the President Xi Jinping from China, these companies are there to represent the US, and this will be a very good news in my opinion, and hopefully lead to a good result, which will pump Bitcoin a bit higher. My shorts are still there. I'm shorting, of course, between $81,000 to $84,000, hoping to make some good profits on the way down, which we will have very soon. Don't worry, we will have the dump, but I personally think we're gonna have a small pump before that, and then we're gonna dump again coming into the next few months. And that was it for today. See you next time. Goodbye.